welcome back. Well, let's talk about Sun Pharma because a couple of news flow that's impacting the stock price today. Of course, there was earnings that came on Friday, but other than that, the company announced the potential buyout of the residual stake in Taro Pharma. Let's try and decode all of that with Mr. C.S. Muralidharan. He's the CFO at Sun Pharma. Mr. Muralidharan, hi, thank you so much for making time and speaking with us. Before I come to your numbers, let me start by asking about the Taro acquisition itself. After almost 10 years, these plans are getting revived. Could you talk to us about what went behind this particular, decision and what kind of synergies do you see?
So, as far as the timing is concerned, you will be aware that there have been some buybacks done even earlier in the last couple of years. And now we thought that overall this transaction is quite compelling and will benefit both the organizations. And that's why we have submitted our indicative offer to the Taro board.
Mr. Muralidharan, what's the timeline of this acquisition completion, and also what's the initial feedback from other minority investors towards this move?
So, we are committed to deploy the appropriate resources to work with the special committee and advisors that we appointed by the Taro board so that we can look forward to an efficient closing of this proposed transaction. As far as timelines are concerned, this transaction is of course subject to final approval by the boards of both the companies and then execution of definitive agreements, and more importantly regulatory approvals, including any relevant antitrust approvals that may be required.
Not really committing to any timeline as far as this deal is concerned, but the performance of Taro itself has been a bit muted over the last few years. Once you take over this 100% stake, do you expect a material re-rating?
So at this point of time, Taro has not given any specific guidance as such and continues to be a public company. So we will be unable to offer any comment on the future performance of Taro, either on the current assets basis or even if the transaction goes through. It's too early to comment.
So coming to your own business at Sun, how's the FY24 overall guidance, which you have kept it at single-digit growth, is being termed a bit conservative, by the way, from the street perspective. What exactly is making you skeptical?
So we have guided for a high single-digit consolidated top-line growth by FY24. I do appreciate and we understand that all our business are well positioned for growth, including our global specialty revenues are expected to further ramp up and continue to grow. But our overall revenue guidance does incorporate several other plausible scenarios, and that's one of the reasons we have guided for high single-digit consolidated top-line growth.
Is the US pricing pressure one of those factors as well? Because that's been plaguing the entire industry. How long before you think the entire pricing issue stabilizes in the US?
See, price erosion in the US has been continuing always, and then we have maintained its product specific and the portfolio specific, but the market continues to remain competitive. And I don't think that is one of the key factors which led to this guidance, but this is one of the factors could be, but not the main factor.
Mr. Muralidharan, your R&D spend at the company is expected to go up to almost 7 to 8%. Would this keep margins under a bit of a pressure?
So we have guided for a 78% of R&D for FY24. However, if you see our last 8 quarters, despite increase in R&D and or other expenses with the expansion revenues for the organization, we have been focusing on bringing in efficiency and containment of costs across businesses and other value chains, which has enabled us to sustain and probably look at a margin of 25-26%. Even with the increased guidance of R&D at this point of time, while we are not guiding specifically on any EBITDA margins for FY24, but we will work towards maintaining and sustaining these type of margins. I have specifically maintained in the past also that while we will look at improving our EBITDA margins, but that will not make us shy away from enhancing our R&D spend, which is somewhat very critical for a future pipeline for the organization.
No, fair enough. I understand that the spend in R&D will continue because it's important for future growth. But talk to us about specific facilities because there are a lot of pending US FDA issues. Start with the Mohali facility first.
So Mohali's facility continues to be on consent degree. We are working with agencies. We have already communicated on last Friday that the supplies will commence in a gradual and phased manner from the site.
All right. And what about what's the latest update at your Halol facility?
So we are working with the agency. We are not putting any timeline as such for the import alert to be lifted at this point of time. We are putting all our best efforts in resolution of all the matters raised by the agency, and we are confident. But very difficult considering it's an import alert to put any given timeline for resolution. We continue to supply all the exempted products from the site at this point of time, and we hope for a positive outcome.
Muralidharan, if you could help us put a timeline there, will it be okay to say 1 or 2 quarters more?
So we are working with the agency. We are not putting any timeline as such for the import alert to be lifted at this point of time. We are putting all our best efforts in resolution of all the matters raised by the agency, and we are confident. But very difficult considering it's an import alert to put any given timeline for resolution. We continue to supply all the exempted products from the site at this point of time, and we hope for a positive outcome.
Okay, hoping for a positive outcome there, though of course getting the timeline is a bit difficult. But let's just wrap up the conversation by talking about the Revlimid sales as well. That obviously contributed quite a bit to your Q4 numbers. But how is it ramping up? Could you give us a number with respect to what sales are you expecting in FY24?
Revlimid sales, we did mention it's included in the Q4 FY23. We are not giving any specific guidance, any product sales.
All right, Mr. Muralidharan, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing the quarter gone by and what lies ahead for the company, and also